My hooves crunched softly beneath the snow. The night turned to amber hues as I trod along with my pip-buck clicking in my ears. For some reason, I was dressed in all black. Black gas mask, black barding that completely covered me horn to hoof, black coat covering it all. The heaps of snow seemed to glow on their own as I trudged silently along the road. Above me hung a city of dreams, or maybe nightmares, on a grand and terrible platform clinging to the side of a cliff. My lips moved silently, but the familiar words were dull and meaningless. Streamers of gas seemed to trickle off the edges of the city. The rancid taste of orange filled my mouth from a tube at the corner. There were other tracks in the snow, bodies in the snow, a trail of dead ponies. I walked on them whenever I could get out of the snow. The dark clouds hung overhead, continued to dump layer after layer of the fluffy material. I was knee-deep in it now. There were lights ahead, sky wagons, tents, ponies milling about, crying softly as they huddled in the shelter of their vehicles. I moved off the road, as silent as the snow around me, creeping closer. "Get another crate of red axe open, and keep them from getting this green snow," a mare wearing bright yellow barding called out. "Get those emergency suits handed out. Fulls first, damn it!" She yelled as she waved her hoof at the ponies around her. The suits were marked with the Ministry of Peace's butterflies. There were soldiers, too, looking scared as they stared out at the night. I crept closer. A soldier said to the mare in yellow emergency suit, "Is it true? Is Hoofington gone too?" "There's no reply from any of the emergency channels," the mare replied. "We might be able to make it to the Fluttershy Medical Clinic, if it hasn't been hit." There was a note of despair on the edge of her voice, as she looked out into the darkness. "Is there any place that hasn't been hit?" "As long as we hit them too," the soldier murmured softly as she scowled at the dead city. "I don't think any pony else is coming out of there. We can't keep this evacuation center here forever." She stomped her hoof in the snow. "I can't believe that the Steel Rangers just abandoned us. Recalled my ass. What were they recalled for?" Then I floated a rifle out in front of me. The leg-long scope made of a soldier's head, clean into view. Matronly. Definitely not a motherly type. Not the sort you'd expect to find in combat barding. Crosshairs aligned on the side of her head. A small hole appeared just behind her temple. Her body blocked most of the sight of the blood spray into the snow. The mare in the emergency suit froze, but the glassy helmet distorted my target. A second later, the rifle fired silently into her. Chest shot. She dropped and started to crawl towards one of the wagons. The other soldiers in the evacuation camp began to scramble. "Sniper! Zebra sniper!" they called out as the refugees started to scram. Crosshairs swept the camp. Soldier with a rifle, headshot. Soldier with a rifle, headshot. The others were behind cover. Taking a sip of rancid orange, I froze, and I rose and moved to the camp. The rifle disassembled itself in the air above me, returned to my bags, and came out 2 matte black mini-machine guns. IF-44 Angel Bunnies. A hoof-long silencer was screwed to each as I moved like Black Death upon the camp, the cylinders muffling the noise and cutting down the muzzle flash. Soldiers came out of cover, trying to protect ponies in a dying world. The Angel Bunnies thumped silently as 3-round bursts of 10mm ammunition cut them down. My black barding protected me better than their combat armor as I systematically eliminated all opposition in the camp. A little more death in Equestria. No more bullets being fired. I headed to the medical crates and began to resupply. Rad-X and Radaway first. Healing potions next. Bullets from the fallen soldiers. Even if I didn't have a weapon that could use them, I wasn't going to leave them around when they could shoot me in the back. Food and purified water. Last, as much as I could carry. There wasn't much left after that. "Please, there are children here," the mayor in the Ministry of Peace emergency suit gasped. "You're killing children," she begged as she hugged my back hoof. Please. Enough ponies have died. For a moment I looked down at her, then drew a pistol from the mare who had died first, while wanting to protect the evacuation camp. I checked the soldier's pistol, then walked to the fallen sky wagons. No! Please, no! She shouted behind me, stretching her hoof after me. Killing foals was no different than killing their mothers. They screamed, bled, and died like animals. 1 round in each head to make sure. 9mm rounds were trash anyway. In less than 5 minutes, the soldier's pistol was tossed into the snow. Why? The medical mare gasped as she crawled towards me. Not that she could understand. They were all dead. All of them. Of radiation, poison, lead poisoning, time. I was simply giving them the pain. She gets to live. Maybe. Maybe she'll figure it out. Maybe not. I continued on the east road. No answer. Not a word. No forgiveness anymore. No absolution. Only the mission. The snow consumed all of her wails and cries. She should be thankful. She had enough supplies remaining to last a few months. Me? I had a pony to kill. I raised my head, looking at the amber hues of the room at my sleeping friends. Scotch had scooted up under Glory's wing. P-21 was a dark blob in one corner, Rampage another in the opposite corner. Lacuna stood as still as stone by the cold fire barrel. I stared into the darkness and whispered, "What the hey?" I paced back and forth in front of the projector. And then I just left her there, like I was trying to teach her a lesson. And I just trot off with one of those stolen supplies. Like, where the hell did that dream come from? I asked, trying to ignore robots peeling away withered flesh from some blasted bionic parts against the far wall. The flickering projection just shrugged. If you ask me, the strength to mass ratio of enchanted silver or the velocity of southbound Pegasi carrying a coconut, I would tell you. I'm an engineer, not a psychologist. She cocked her head. What do you normally dream about? I sighed, looking at a box marked medical supplies. Med-X, Rad-X, Buck, Steady Dash, inhalers. Well, Dash had kept me alive long enough to get to Scalpel. Gassing stable 99. Usually. Sometimes I get other freaky dreams. Blowing up Deus. One filly torn in half, one crushed in an embrace, a lullaby. And that thing in the tunnels. Me and sleep aren't really friendly. I held up a few needles of Med-X and a box of Rad-X tablets with a little smile, and the projection sighed and nodded. Score! Once I'd refilled my stock of chems, I sat on one of the cushions. Fortunately, one side effect of being a cyber pony, you really didn't need that much shut-eye. So, the theme was right up there, but everything was out of left field. I mean, it almost felt like a memory orb, but far more real and familiar. Like, it was me remembering them, not just watching the experience of others. Well, to be honest, I can't imagine. If it wasn't an internal dream, then it must have been something external. Like you've experienced, exposed to unprecedented levels of taint and enervation. It's caused microtumors in your brain, and that are thus far fairly benign, but could possibly be affecting your mental processes. Your friend Glory helped us determine their growth rate. Because Glory was just awesome like that, and me having brain tumors sure would have explained a lot back in '99. I sighed and shook my head. Can I ask you something? Triage mentioned you went down the elevator too. Why? She sighed. Well, you know that I was predominantly involved with Steel Pony, but I heard rumors about other projects. It was a bit of a game back then to try and find out each other's secrets. The only pony who knew everything was Golden Blood. And maybe Vanity. Vanity? His uncle. She nodded slowly. He was always accompanying Golden Blood, Technically, he worked for the MOM, keeping an eye on bad ponies in the military. But after the Marauders disbanded, he was brought to the OIA immediately. She frowned. Some ponies think that he was really just spying for Pinkie Pie, that he turned over something that made Luna dismiss him from his position, because he worked with Horse and Trueblood. But if he really was against his nephew, Vanity could have done a lot more damage to him, so it's a mystery. The projection smiled. I'd heard about these ruins in the memories. Rarity and Golden Blood had been down there. I was hoping to catch a memory of either of them, especially Golden Blood. Unfortunately, I was down there too long, and that, well, she pointed a glowing hoof at the jar. And did you find out anything? I asked eagerly. I didn't counter one memory, but let me see if I can do this. The room lights began to flicker, then darkened as the projector lit up the space overhead. The colors combined and oriented themselves into a dreary, blurred ruin. There was no swirling motes of light, just magic lamps illuminating the crushed stone. It was back in the ruins, and there were 2 mares, not counting my host, collecting pot shards. It became apparent why the memory was selected when Rarity walked past. I wonder if she's in a hurry about. A mare, I guess, was the host said. If it be Dewdrop, Rarity's going to have you sweeping the floor scraps if she catches you eavesdropping. One of the 2 replied. My host chuckled. I'm not eavesdropping. I'm just collecting pot shards. And she happened to be collecting them very quickly in the direction of the white mare. Rarity trotted along through the buried ruins, looking particularly magnificent in her purple rubbery boots and coat that shielded her from the water dripping from above. Golden Blood stood at one of the walls next to the hole in the water in the cave it was trickling into. His eyes were distant as he floated a piece of rock in front of him, turning it over and over. The spiral chunk of silvery stone glittered coldly in the light of the lamps, and seemed to have him mesmerized. Golden Blood? A word? Rarity said softly, but voices carried in the tunnels, and whoever was remembering this moved closer. The wheezing, scarred buck regarded her with an arched brow. I wanted to. Thank you for helping save Pinkie Pie. If that bomb had gone off... She took a deep breath. I've never faced the possibility of losing my friends before. Never. Not even when facing Nightmare Moon and dragons. Golden Blood said softly, but with a small, sincere smile. She brushed a hoof across her mane, smiling sheepishly and giving a feigned carefree roll of her eyes. Ah, the invulnerability of youth. But no, not even then. She closed her blue eyes and took a deep breath. But when I heard about it... Most credit goes to Pinkie Pie and the Marauders. She sensed it, and they evacuated the club. I simply gave her a nudge in the right direction, he said, as he turned the spur of stone over and over in his magic. When she looked at it, he smiled. Fascinating, isn't it? I've been finding more and more of this ore deeper as we excavate. Its properties and potential are astounding. Rarity dropped her gaze, chewing her lip. Clearly, she didn't want to discuss stupid rocks. Golden Blood, I need to ask a favor. I need a project. A secret project, she said quietly. Normally, I'd never ask, but after Pinkie... She chewed on her lip. I think I may have a way to protect my friends, but I need something. Something terrible. Golden Blood just stared at the hard spiral as he turned the rock over in his magic. I see.